As we become more and more familiar with moving files around different operating systems, we have to continue being aware of other protocols that are available to us to help us achieve the same and similar goals. In this video, we're going to look at SCP, which is Secure Copy Protocol, and SMB, which is a file sharing within Linux. So without further ado, let's jump in. We'll configure Samba, we'll look at SCP as well, and then I've also got a Ubuntu machine here that I've SSH'd into, and we'll look at how we're going to be file sharing systems, files, payloads in an upcoming video as well, but we're going to be looking at how to use both protocols, SCP and SMB, to file share as well. So I'm here on a fresh install of Kali Linux. So the first thing that we're going to go do is we're going to play with SMB first. So we're going to use SMB Samba specifically, and that's SMB file share with Linux. And the first thing that we need to go away and do is do an app install Samba. Now, I've already gone away and I've did this just for time's sake, so we don't spend time watching the screen load and configure. So you can just go away, do an app if you're following along, of course, if you can go away, do an app install Samba. And then there's a few things that we need to go and create. Now, on this machine, I've got my own hostname that I've configured, and my host name is Neon, and I'm going to use that host name be part of my SMB, because when we set up SMB, we need a few things to set up. We have to make sure that the service is running first and foremost. So I'm going to put here service, and then we need to set up an account. So we have to associate our account, and then there's a .conf file that we need to go away and also configure and make some changes to, so that way when we create our folder and our directory that we're going to use for file sharing, then that has to be tied into that conf folder as well. So let's go away and do that. So let's go do the first thing and make sure that the service is running in this instance. So I'm just going to do service SMBD, and then I just do a quick status, and it's telling me that it's not running, and that's okay. So let's do a quick start and make sure that that's running as well. And while I'm doing that as well, I'm going to make sure that I've got SSH running on here as well, because I think later I'm going to try and do a connect back into this machine, and that's disabled as well. So let's just start this up as well while we're here. Now, SSH just means it allows me to SSH from this Vagrant machine, which is an exploitable 3 Ubuntu machine, to my host machine here on my Kali Linux box. So that way, when we start file sharing between different systems, then obviously I need to enable the servers to connect back into my Kali box. So I just thought make sure that that's running as well. And let me just do a quick status, and let's just verify that they're all up and running and that's active. And let me just go back one. And let's look at SMBD status. And that's active as well, and that's good. So that's the first step. Now the second step is to make sure that we've got an account associated with our Linux or within our SMB. When we have to authenticate, we have to use an account and password to authenticate with SMB. So let's go away and just configure an account. So I'm just going to do SMB password tag A, which just uses the user account. In this case, I'm going to use my hostname account, so my account that I've got here, and then it's asking for a password. So I'm just going to log in with the same password that I use, just to keep things simple. And at this point, we're pretty much done. So we've installed Samba, we've created our account and username, obviously our username and password here. The service is running, which is good. Now we have to go into the etc Samba, and it's a configuration file that we need to go in, just make some minor changes to that document. So let's do that. So let's just cd into the etc Samba directory, and there's a .conf file here that we need to make some changes to. So I'm just going to nano this out, SMB conf, and if I just go right to the bottom, we just have to make some minor changes. It looks like I've been playing around with something before, so I'm going to keep this as it is. You can follow along as well. This just basically gives it a name that we're going to connect to, and I'll also create a similar directory in this name for us to sort of reference it. The path is just saying where is this path going to be situated and located, so we're going to have to create this path. So I'm just going to go here and then go into our Neon, so our home directory, the user profile, and then I'm just going to create that Samba file sharing account. So let's just go make directory, Samba, all in caps, file share. And then let's list that out, and there it is here. So that's good. So if I just go into that directory should then reference that path that we've got here. So the path equals home, neon, Samba file sharing, and that's great. All right, cool. Next step. So we need to create, so a couple of other things here that I've got is read only. Well, we don't want this directory to be read only, because if we're moving files around and doing things inside of this directory, and if it's read only, then we won't be able to make any changes. So in this case, we don't want that directory to be read only. So that's why we've situated a no response. And we do want the account or the actual location to be browsable for us to access it. And obviously do what we want to do within that directory, right? So we have to put a yes parameter there. So at this point, that's looking all good. So I'm going to save that. Exit out of that, so our configuration file is done. The other thing that I need to do is make some changes to the actual directory. So now just be mindful that this is a lab environment, so I'm not really too fussed with file sharing permissions and stuff like that. So I am just going to make a recursive or7. So just basically saying, hey, I'm going to make changes to this file share and I want to give everyone and anything access to this. Now the tag just says it's recursive, so this is going to be reflective across all directories and subdirectories within our Samba file sharing account. Now, if you're doing this across a production environment where you don't want to have everyone and anything have access to this, of course, you just have to be mindful that you may have to just create your own specific requirements on who has access to that. So again, this is just a demo. If I'm doing this in a cloud instance, for example, I may just have to harden down the permissions a little bit more, but this is just a lab again. So I'm not really fussed who has access because I could just tear it down. So as we're just going through that, so I'm just going to make changes to this directory. So making sure that the tag that everything within that directory, so if the subdirectories and subfolders are associated with that account, or if I'm making additional changes to the documents and folders and other structures inside that directory itself, then all these changes apply to that. So let me just write this out. So Samba file sharing. And then if I just do a quick list, we should have full read-write access. Okay, and we do. So that's good. Okay, so at this point, we're pretty much where we need to be. So we've created our directory, we've created our user account, the service is running. Let's map it to a directory. So let's go over to our Windows host. Let's connect up, and then let's begin moving stuff around to see if we can have access to. So if I go into the Samba directory, there should be nothing in there right now, which is fine. So let me just clear this out for a bit of real estate, and I'll clear this out as well. And let's move some stuff in there so we know that firstly it works and we can have access to the different types of files or systems that we need to maneuver and upload and download stuff, right? So let's do that. So I've got some stuff here that we've already downloaded in a previous video. So we've played already with Netcat, we've got pawn drop. I'm going to use this C reverse shell in an upcoming video when we start talking more around payloads and exploits. So we have to talk about compiling because if we have to go develop an exploit and the system doesn't know how to read that compiler, we have to go away and compile that exploit so it becomes readable to the system that we're applying it to. So I'm not going to go too much into compiling right now, but I'm going to use this as an example to make sure that we can, because if I go into that directory itself, you'll see that there's multiple files in here, and this obviously can just reflect that, once we move this across, do they become visible in the other system? So let's just do that. So I'm going to move this folder. So I'm going to copy C reverse shell, and then I want to copy that to my home, Neon, and Samba file sharing. And I want to take it in there. Okay. Oops. Let's go back. It's asking for the recursive. What's that out? Looks like it just glitched a little bit. That's okay. Let's copy this out. Let's do the tag R for C reverse shell, and then let's take it into our home Neon to Samba. So that directory should still be there, and there it is now. So that now has been copied across into our Samba file sharing directory. So let's go over to our Windows machine. So in this case, I'm going to quickly map the drive, and it's going to probably ask us to authenticate, which we will through the username and password that we provided using that SMBD password. So we had to associate our account, create the password that we're going to now associate with SMB, specifically with Samba. So let's do that. So let's just map this drive out and see if we can map that connection right between our file sharing directory. All right, so 192, so specify my IP address here. I think my IP address is 139. Okay, and it's 139, 1.1. 39, and the directory is Samba-file sharing. Samba-file sharing. Some different grids. Okay, and it's asking to authenticate. So I'm just going to authenticate now with the account that I've put in before. And it doesn't like it. And why is that? Oh, and that's same. Samba TAC file sharing. Okay, try that. Again. And that's better. Okay, cool. So that directory has now been mapped. So there's our directory, and there's a C reverse shell that we've moved into our Linux box, and then we've now made this available in our Windows environment. So that looks all good at this stage. So, all right, I'm really happy with that. So that's one way of doing it. So we can use Samba, we can set up Samba and then file share between the systems. So let's talk a little bit about as well secure copy protocol. So we can move things around via SSH, and let's do that as well. So let's just do our machine down here. So we've spoken about Samba. Now let's look at how we're going to use SCP to do this as well, because SCP is a common protocol. It's encrypted, which is great, and we want things to be encrypted as well as we're moving files around. So let's do a couple of things. Let's create a couple of examples. So let's create a file, and then we'll look at both a directory as well. So putting out a directory from this machine into our Kali machine, and then we'll look at doing another example where we'll create a list of directories in our Kali machine and then pull them down into our Ubuntu machine as well, because sometimes you have to have that bidirectional communications or that bidirectional file sharing capabilities where we've got to download stuff onto maybe this victim machine and vice versa, right? We have to maybe upload some stuff to our host machine. And then what happens if we've got shells and other stuff that we want to install and stuff like that? So we have to be mindful of doing that as well. So let's do this. So let's just create a file. So let me see where we are here. So we're in this home directory. Let me just go into the Vagrant directory. So, okay. So let's just clear this out. And let's just create a single file. So I'm going to create just one file for now. So we can, if we need to move a single file, we can move single files, we can move entire directories. So let's just do that as an example. So let me just touch out a file. So touch is basically just creating a file, and then I'll just call this file text.txt. I'm not going to edit the file and add any comments into that. It's just no point at this stage, because all I want to do is just move this file text into our Samba directory. As you can see right now, it's empty. All we have in there is our C reverse shell. So if we need to get this file from this machine, maybe we've exploited this machine and we want to take this file out, if we're exfiltrating it, for example, then we can do that with SCP. So let's just SCP this file out. So SCP is the first command that you need to pop in, and then obviously the file that we're using or we're going to be moving. And then we have to specify our SSH information. So at this stage, my host name is Neon, and then the IP address that we're going to connect into, .1.139, and then the directory that we need to put it in. So at this stage, it's going to be this home Neon Samba file sharing directory. So I just do present with directory, copy that just so we don't have any spelling mistakes. Just get rid of that backslash there, because when I paste this in, it will add the slash. And then all we need to do is just basically specify where we want to dump this file. So we're going to copy, we're going to use secure copy protocol, we're going to take this file, and then we are going to drop it into pretty much this location. So this :/ is the directory location that we want to take that file and move it to. So it's going to ask for a password. So let me put in my password. And there we go. So it's 100% successful. If I just do a quick listing, and there's the file there. So now we've taken that file out and we've now put that into our Kali machine, which is great. Now, what happens if we need to take an entire directory? Maybe we need to take it via downloads location or documents or a desktop, or we can do that as well. So let me just go back here and let's just see if we can move. Let's see if we can move maybe this Anarchan Skywalker directory, right? That's going to probably have some files in there. So let's go in there and just have a quick look at that. Okay, and there's a 20, so we'll go to 20. Okay, permission denied. So let's just try moving it. And if there's a permission issue with that, that's okay. We'll try it another way. But at this case, we can just try and see if we can move move this account or move this entire directory out. So let me just go into sudo super user just to make things a bit easier there. And let's do the same thing. So it's this QR copy protocol. And this time I'm going to use the tag R, which is our recursive function, like similar in a part before we talked about recursive. So we're going to take all the directories and subdirectories inside. And just a moment. So inside this location or this folder. And then we want to do the same thing. So we want to spit them all out to this host at 192.168.1.139. And the directory we want to spit them out to is our file sharing. Copy that. And let's do a quick paste. So let's just try that. It's asking for the password. And that looks like a success. So there we have it. So we have the Anakin Skywalker directory that we've pulled out. So very similar. So we can take entire directories. So we may be in an instance where, again, there's a downloads function or a downloads feature or a desktop that we want to take everything out of that account and then move that into our machine, right? So that's how we can use single files and folders as well. So now, what happens if we need to maybe install something else from our Kali machine, or there's another file that we need to maybe move onto this machine, or what happens if we go back into our pawn drop and we need to maybe download this netcat.exe? Of course, netcat.exe won't work on that Ubuntu machine, but what happens if we need to maybe install this secret.txt? Well, we can download this as well from our pawn drop using the wget function. So let's try that as well, and then we'll look at also maybe sending some more documents here, and then we have to then pull them across as well. So let's just do the wget function. So we can use https colon whack whack IP address .1.139, and then that file location, which is this download one secret document. If I just copy that, go back to our directory here, check command line. Let me just paste this in here. Extra whack there. So we should now be able to pull down this secret docker.txt as well. And it doesn't like that. HTTPS. That's why. So let me just get rid of that HTTPS here and just leave it as HTTP. And then we go, that's downloaded that file as well. So we should have, ta-da, our secret underscore docker.txt. So we can download that as well through our pawn drop. Now, if we have some more information on our Kali machine and we want to also take this down, like you've seen with this reverse shell, we need to maybe install that reverse shell on here as well. So let's just do that as well. So I'm going to go into the Vagrant directory just to make things easier. And then I'll make a directory in here called, let's just say payloads. And this is where we can maybe, let me go into this directory. And this is where maybe we can just begin putting in payloads on this host machine that we're going to be exploiting it for future reference, right? So I'm going to then copy this C reference or this C reverse shell into this Ubuntu machine as well. So let's do that. So if we want to bring this directory over, well, we can do the same thing as we did before. So let's do that. So let's do a secure copy and let's do our tag R for recursive. Now let's do our neon machine 192.168.1.39 colon whack, and this directory is file sharing. Okay, so C reverse shell and do present with directory, and let me just copy that. Let's get rid of this extra colon there, extra whack, sorry, and let's paste the clipboard. So let's just try this because I may have to put a single host name here as well. So let's just see if this, okay, that didn't like it. That's okay. Let's go back here. I'll just move the tag R there and let's just give it a local name here. So for the local directory that we want to put it into. So where we are, home, Vagrant, and we want to put that into our payloads directory. Let's try that. So asking for a password, authenticate, on a regular file. Let's try that. There we go. So now, of course, our directory should still be here. So we haven't moved it or anything. So we've just copied it. And now this directory should now be in our, there it is, in our payloads folder that we've created. So all we had to do when we do secure copy, again, we had to use the tag R for recursive. Our SSH details here, obviously our host that we're connecting into and the location of which file that we're pulling down from. And then we just had to specify the local directory on this Ubuntu machine, the location of where we can then dump that data. So in this case, it was the home vagrant and that payloads directory that we've created. So that's a different way that we can authenticate, obviously use Ubuntu, we can use Windows, and begin moving files around using different protocols like SCP, as you've just seen, as well as using SMB Samba as well. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and in the next couple of videos, we're going to look at doing more payloads and more exploits. And as always, thank you for viewing, and see you all in an upcoming video. Bye for now.